Hi everybody, welcome to Module 5 of HBSE 2 for the spring semester of 2020. I think today's topic, which is focusing on certainly what's going on in terms of the environment globally, is very apropos to, of course, what we're all experiencing in terms of this quarantine. Probably as population grows and we expand human activity farther and farther into areas where we really haven't been before, we're going to be encountering animals from which we can begin, unfortunately, to develop different kinds of diseases like this. Certainly HIV was connected to human expansion, and now we're looking at this coronavirus experience very well. Within social work, we've primarily not taken a global perspective, even though we're very much wedded to the construct of person and environment. Typically, our profession has thought of the person and environment more in terms of local environments and how those have impacted the clients that we see and so forth. But in terms of the larger focus, the global focus of environment, we haven't as a profession been so quick to embrace that. So in the next two modules that are going to parallel your readings in the first and second half of Chapter 7, we'll be looking at just how environment and issues related to the global natural world are really central to social justice and human rights and our responsibilities as social workers, and especially our understanding of how the environment can provide sources of risk as well as resilience for us and the people that we serve as well. So as I mentioned a moment ago, social work has traditionally operated from the perspective that the environment is more of a local thing versus a global thing. Unfortunately, I think that our awareness, certainly I hope after this experience, will expand to include a worldview that really does know about culture, not just from, again, its local experiences of different cultures, but really looking at cultures throughout the world, especially as different cultures are disproportionately impacted by environmental changes that lead to displacement and the impacts of all of that, of course, on the global economy. And I think many of us are experiencing very firsthand some of those economic consequences of the coronavirus too right now. So certainly what we need to be mindful of is more of a global perspective. Remember the film that we watched earlier in the semester about chocolate production? So as the world economy becomes more of a global economy, and globally people, especially in the northern hemisphere, are really enjoying things like chocolate, there's a price that gets paid for that chocolate at a very human level, and something that, again, we need to be very, very mindful of. So the chapter helps to sort of turn our attention toward concepts like consumerism. And certainly when we're looking at consumerism, it's not just the consumerism of others, but certainly looking at what our own greed quotient is about with respect to how it might be driving us and how it might be driving our culture and cultures around the world toward really extinction in terms of overusing our resources and not thinking about things in terms of sustainability for generations that follow us. Certainly when we talk about consumerism, it's driven by a basic notion that personal happiness and fulfillment is only possible when we've accrued as much wealth and pleasure as we possibly can. So the formula for consumerism is really about getting more stuff means you get to have more happiness. I think research has borne out that materialism or a materialistic focus really doesn't lead to more meaningful life experiences or having a higher quality of life. I think in lots of ways the text articulates a number of ways that materialism expressed through consumerism has over time certainly resulted in a number of negative impacts on our society, from increased rates of teen suicide to us working longer work weeks, longer work days, and having shorter vacations and that kind of thing. So the core of the first part of the chapter really addresses how overconsumption has also been a major contributor to the degradation of our environment and the Earth's ecosystem in general. This degradation includes global warming related climate change, and as part of that I've attached a brief story to this module about the coral bleaching that's happening on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia as a result of global warming. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that. And in general, how, again, global warming has had major implications for economies, policymaking, and societies, as well as people around the globe, especially people that are confronting things like climate change and its adverse impacts on their capacity for being able to produce food, certainly the availability of drinkable water for people and for watering crops, keeping crops alive. And then finally, something that we should really be mindful of here in Florida is how climate change, especially global warming, is impacting sea level rise and what that means for us in the foreseeable future. In the second half of the chapter, when we'll move on to this in Module 6, we'll take a look at where social work as a profession may have a role in addressing issues that stem from challenges that are created by the human consequences of climate and environmental change. So I hope that you'll enjoy this chapter. It's a little bit frightening on some level, but I think that it does end on a hopeful note. And if there are any questions or concerns, please reach out and let me know. Again, after watching this brief video, please be sure to read the chapter, examine the slides, and then move on to looking at the attached story about the bleached coral and completing the challenge. All right. That's all for now. Thanks a lot. Bye now.